On 11 March 2015, the auction house Künker is going to sell the special collection Schleswig, Holstein, and Denmark from the possession of Kurt Zentini in auction sale number 261 on 11 March. John Temple, Prime Minister of England, is credited with the following comment on the history of these duchies. Only 3 people have ever really understood the Schleswig-Holstein business: the Prince Consort, who is dead, a German professor who has gone mad, and I, who have forgotten all about it. The history of Schleswig-Holstein is not quite as complicated as he makes out here, but complicated enough to easily cause confusion, considering that the rule over the duchies was distributed among a great number of different houses. Coins can help us understand this complexity better. So here is a numismatic overview on the history of Germany's most northern federal state. It all started with the Donauwerk, a system of border fortifications built by various Danish rulers as protective measure against the aggressive expansionist policy of the Carolingians. Protected by this fortified wall, Hedeby grew as an international trading post under Danish supervision. This coin of the Danish king Harald Bluetooth was coined in Hedeby. The coin motif is not easy to decipher. In fact, this coin imitates the much better-known coins of Charlemagne minted in Dorestad. Unfortunately, the Danish die cutter could neither read nor write, so that he dissolved the legend into messy ornaments. Hedeby thrived and flourished until the High Middle Ages. In 1066, however, it was devastated and not rebuilt. Instead, the Danish kings had a residence built in the nearby Schleswig, giving its name to the duchy. The Duchy Schleswig, situated between the core Danish territory and the German Empire, became a secundogeniture of the Danish royal family, before it happened to come, thanks to a fortunate marriage, to the German House of Schaumburg, who already ruled over the county Holstein. For 2 centuries, the Schaumburgs tried to ensure the duchies Schleswig and Holstein would stay undivided in the family by right of succession. Yet only Adolf VIII of Holstein-Rendsburg succeeded in this endeavor in 1440. Bad luck, he died without leaving behind a male heir. So the Knights of Schleswig and Holstein elected a new ruler. They decided in favor of Adolf's nephew, the Danish king. And this is how Schleswig-Holstein became part of the Danish Empire for the next 400 years. The aristocracy in the Schleswig-Holstein territory between Denmark and the German Empire was powerful enough to influence Danish imperial politics if need be. So, in 1523, they degraded the unpopular King Christian II in order to instate Frederick I, Duke of Schleswig-Holstein, as their new king. This coin, a double shilling, was minted in that year. The obverse presents the Duke as a heavily armed warrior. The reverse depicts the coat of arms of Schleswig, 2 blue lions on a golden background. The Schleswig and Danish coat of arms can easily be told apart. That of Denmark shows 3 crowned blue lions and 9 red hearts against a golden background. Frederick I was succeeded by his son, Christian III. Since the latter had attended the Diet of Worms, he was a staunch believer in Luther's cause and enforced the Reformation in Denmark as well as in Schleswig-Holstein. You can see the ruler on his first Renaissance-style Danish thaler minted in the city of Flensburg. On this portrait, the Duke combines his armor with a fashionable beret. This gold gulden, minted in 1536 in Schleswig and modeled on the Rhenish gold gulden, is quite remarkable. It ignores Reformation concerns about the pictorial representation of saints. In line with Catholic tradition, its obverse depicts St. Andrew. When it comes down to it, minting widely known and recognizable coin types was of greater importance than defending religious principles on coins. In 1544, King Christian III made his half-brother John Adolf, who at the time resided in Gottorp Castle, co-regent in the duchies of Schleswig and Holstein. This was the beginning of the House of Schleswig-Holstein-Gottorp. The coat of arms of the new Duke combined the 2 blue lions of Schleswig, the nettle leaves of Holstein, the swan symbol of the Gau Stormarn in the southeast, the lion inherited from Norway, and below the horsemen of Dithmarschen. The surtout with beam and cross refers to the title Count of Oldenburg and Delmenhorst. It was precisely this John Adolf of Schleswig-Holstein-Gottorp, seen here on a Reichsdaler from 1606, who achieved a degree of independence from his brother, the Danish king, by insisting that Holstein, the territory ruled by him, remain part of the Holy Roman Empire. Schleswig remained Danish. At this point in time, this did not pose a problem. After all, the Danish king had bigger problems on his mind. He was now called Frederick II. You can see him here on a coin from 1572. That his coat of arms includes the 3 crowns of Sweden was considered a provocation by the Swedish ruler Erik XIV. The result of the growing tensions between the two ambitious rulers was an armed conflict known as the War of the 3 Crowns, better known by historians as the Northern 7 Years' War. Warfare is expensive, then and now. The Copenhagen Mint was asked to deliver more than 3 million marks minted from silver to their king. Given the historical means of production, that was impossible. So, at the beginning of the war, the mint master decided to mint only gold and silver clips because square planchets were much easier to produce than round ones. This coin with its truly simplistic motif is typical of this omission. No wonder this king, too, was eager to annul his younger brother John's hereditary titles in the easiest and financially least expensive way possible. He endowed him with another part of Schleswig-Holstein, and thus originated the House of Holstein-Sonderburg. In 1622, John died. This Reichsdaler from the same year remembers his death. Legally, he was not allowed to distribute his property among his sons. The Danish king, however, was busy with political matters of greater importance than that, and trying to take advantage of the 30 Years' War in order to expand his own influence. John was able to bequeath his territory to his sons without any protests raised by the Danish king. The houses of Augustenburg and Glucksburg were born. This beautiful, large Reichsdaler was minted by Duke Christian of Holstein-Glucksburg in 1671 to commemorate the death of his spouse, Sibylla Ursula. The representative coin depicts an angel taking the soul of the deceased up to heaven while her skeleton remains on earth. But back to the Danish king Christian IV. He considered himself the self-proclaimed defendant of the Lutheran belief against the emperor's power. Frederick III, his nephew in Gottorp, was closer to the imperial party. The conflict within the family provided fertile ground for many acts of war, and the country was being ravaged by Swedish, imperial, and Protestant troops. The 30 Years' War left the duchies devastated and the Danish king considerably weakened. Against this background, Frederick III of Holstein-Gottorp succeeded in achieving his duchy's independence from Denmark. Denmark was too preoccupied with the war against Sweden to act upon this. This coin commemorates a Danish victory. The reverse shows the hand of God chopping off the Swedish king's hand as he tries to reach for the Danish crown. With few intermissions, the war lasted until 1720. The Treaty of Fredericksburg was only signed by Frederick IV on 14 July 1720. You can see the king on this Spezia-dollar from 1704 with the famous Order of the Elephant. The peace treaty assigned the whole Duchy of Schleswig to him. The loser in this agreement was the Duchy of Gottorp. Reduced to the territory of Holstein, the debt-ridden petty state lost all significance. The Treaty of Fredericksburg secured 80 years of peace. During this time, the Danish kings engaged productively in a number of economic activities. This double ducat minted from Guinean gold, which on its reverse depicts Fort Christianborg, bears witness to this economic success. The citadel had been built by the Swedish in modern-day Accra, the capital of Ghana. In 1658, the Danish king succeeded in taking Christiansborg. Look how proud the Dannebrog declares that the Danish owns this fortress now. The Danish king many times proudly remembered the fortress of Christiansborg on his coinage. In the 18th century, Schleswig-Holstein was fully brought under the control of the Danish king. Even though a chancellor resided in Gottorp, Schleswig was administered by the German chancellery in Copenhagen. The chancellery in Glückstadt was in charge of Holstein. The Napoleonic Wars ended the economic golden age. It ended with devastating losses for Denmark, the state bankrupt, the fleet destroyed. Beyond that, Denmark had to convey away Norway to Sweden and Helgoland to England. What is more, Frederick VI of Schleswig-Holstein had to face confrontations with a liberal-minded German national movement. Denmark, too, saw the emergence of a national movement. It demanded that the part of Schleswig up to the Eider be incorporated into the kingdom, a postulation which provoked much political dispute. Frederick VII ascended to the throne in 1848. This Specie-Dollar was minted for the special occasion. The deceased Christian VIII, wearing a civic crown made from oak leaves, decorates the reverse. While Copenhagen was in the midst of debating a Danish constitution, German national-minded politicians in Schleswig-Holstein felt inspired to join the revolution taking place in the German Empire. They would have agreed to recognize the Danish king in personal union as Duke of Schleswig-Holstein, but the king had rejected the offer. His agenda was incorporating Schleswig into his imperial federation. The situation escalated, but the ensuing war ended in 1852 only with the status quo antebellum. The Danish were still eager to annex Schleswig. The Germans increasingly considered the Schleswig-Holstein issue a national matter. When Christian IX ascended to the throne in 1863, Bismarck saw an opportunity and began the First War of German Unification. In the same year, Holstein was occupied without combat. The Battle of Dibbau brought Schleswig under Prussian control on 18 April 1864. Denmark lost his duchies, the equivalent of 40% of its territory and a third of its population. Thus ended the 400 years of personal union between Schleswig-Holstein and Denmark. We, the auction house Künker, would like to invite you to our March auction sale 2015. If we have sparked your interest in the Zentini collection with this film, we cordially invite you to join us at our auction sale 261 on 11 March. Please do not hesitate to contact us should you have any further questions.